Welcome back to the Why Mindset Matters podcast. I'm Eslana Loa. I'm an author, speaker, resilience mindset coach. I'm a nurse and a midwife and a mother of 4. And today I want to speak to you about men's mental health. I want to address the happy wife, happy life rubbish that we've been spoon-fed since early childhood. I call bullshit. I'm going to let you in on something. I'm the wife and I can't keep myself happy all of the time. So if his happiness hinges on my ability to maintain some representation of stable and sustainable happiness, then the poor guy is doomed. And besides, that's not what I believe women truly want. A subservient husband or partner whose existence occurs simply to serve them and their purpose. And even those who think they do probably only do so because they've never had the privilege of being exposed to an unapologetically empowered, self-assured man and the beauty that he brings to a relationship when he steps into the power of his masculine. When we perceive ourselves to be accountable for the happiness of another, we bear a burden of responsibility, which often leads to resentment as we find ourselves incapable of achieving the unattainable. And when we perceive another to be responsible for our happiness, we open ourselves to repeated injury or insult, as they, of course, will unintentionally but undoubtedly disappoint us. So what if instead of seeing ourselves as husband and wife, ball and chain, de factos, etc., we separated ourselves entirely? So two separate entities brought our individual focus back to ourselves, to our core. What if we each looked at who and what we are, who and what we want to be, and what's lacking or needed in order to get me from where it is that I am to where it is I want to be, and what I can do to create and contribute to my own reality in a way that results in a sense of contentment and happiness. I would call that having a healthy selfishness, and that's something that I believe everyone should foster, because when we turn our focus inward, we become accountable. And when we're accountable for ourselves, it becomes easier to contribute rather than compromise. And we find our voice, we own our journey, and stop expecting others to appease our suffering, I think is the key to ultimately what underpins what we were trying to achieve probably as a culture and society, this thing that has been ingrained or oppressed upon us since childhood and since we were young, and that has either been accepted or expected as happy wife, happy life, probably originated from a peace-seeking attitude. Keep her happy so we can just have a happy life. I want to, play devil's advocate and say I would assume that it came from a well-intentioned place of peace-seeking, but I don't think that the consequences warrant the sacrifices. I don't think it works out to be worth it. Whether it feels like it at the time or not, everything in life can be viewed as a lesson or a gift, sometimes both. So when we expect others to keep us comfortable, or we focus on the comfort and happiness of others rather than our own, we miss the whole point of the discomfort that comes from accountability, the opportunities for growth. Facing our true authentic self can be uncomfortable and confronting, but ever so rewarding. I would encourage everybody to make their intentional goal to endeavor to show up as your most authentic self rather than aim for peace seeking, but doing it by focusing on somebody else, like keeping somebody else happy, appeasing their suffering, all of this stuff. Let's turn, like I said, our focus inward. If we're courageous enough to actually pull the curtain back and look into the dark corners of our soul with a sort of love, empathy, compassion that we would so easily afford others, then we can arrive at that knowing that no one actually has this all figured out. We're all simply just fumbling our way through the same darkness, often at different stages of the journey. And the arrival at this knowing will bring us peace. Because as we now realize that these two separate entities are no better nor worse than each other, but rather we're equally as beautiful and broken, like puzzle pieces that fit together to make up a beautiful landscape of a life worth living, and the perfect team to create life. If you want to be parents, birth it and parent it. And if you decide not to be parents, the perfect team to navigate the adventure that will be your life together. But that only becomes a truth when we stay invested in our relationship. And being invested in your relationship doesn't mean being invested in with a focus on the other person. I've got to be invested in you. I've got to, in your happiness, in your peace. I've got to make sure that you're okay. Because at the end of the day, we're two separate entities, two individuals that are ultimately responsible for those aspects of our own life. And when we bring our focus back, put it on ourselves, we actually facilitate more joy and connectedness and satisfaction across the lifespan, because I'm the only one that can actually sort my shit out. I'm the only one who can make me happy. I'm the only one who can do the things that are necessary in order for me to be capable of showing up as a healthiest version of myself that I have to offer, so that I can facilitate healthy relationships and maintain connection with my significant other. Someone else can't do that. They can want it for me. They can want all the good in the world for me, but they can't do it. They can't even facilitate it. I have to. And it's an uncomfortable and confronting truth to actually be faced with if we haven't been doing that. And for the men, do you know what the most powerful and important gift you can give your partner and children, if you have them, is? It is you, the truest, most empowered and authentic version of yourself. As a man, you're so important, you're so valuable, and you're so, so worthy of a fulfilling and rewarding life. And when a man is given the time, space, and self-permission to acknowledge his vulnerabilities, his hopes, his fears, his dreams, something wonderful happens. He arrives in life, and this strength blossoms as he moves from this passive existence to an intentional being who's realizing his worth, his value, has this powerful and loving presence in their lives, and begins to live with intent, and the world becomes his oyster. So we have the option to remain under the oppressive conditioning of happy wife, happy life, and exist in martyrdom to somebody else's existence, constantly striving to try and make them happy. Or you can step out from under that oppression and really, like I said, live with intent, and the world opens up, because you weren't put on this earth to find a partner and then serve them. You can love them in a really healthy and wholehearted way that facilitates so much shared joy and passion and adventure, but the focus should really be even more so on what is your life going to look and feel like, and is the current existence of that matching the expectation or dreams and hopes and goals that you had, and if not, why? Because your degree of satisfaction in life, your degree of joy and contentment and happiness has less to do with the environmental factors of traumas and challenges, because let's face it, we're all going to face those. We're going to have inevitable challenges as we navigate this journey called life. Whether we have children or we don't, we're going to navigate them. We're going to navigate losses and grief, but we're also going to navigate adventures and joy and unimaginable happiness, and just things that rip our heart open in the most beautiful way and show us this experience we didn't know was possible. And we get to have this experience of life. So if you've put yourself into a position where you're not describing your life like that, it doesn't have anything to do with whether you own the house that you would really like, or have a jet ski to ride on the weekend, or can facilitate the financial aspects that you desire. It has more to do with your perception of your life, because that's what I was trying to say. The degree of happiness, contentment, and joy that you will experience is directly related to the perception you have of your life, challenges, experience, passion, adventure, all of that, which comes down to your mindset. And if your conditioning from childhood has been happy wife, happy life, and that's the lens through which you're viewing all of your actions and behaviors and reactions, then you're cutting yourself short. Why should you live a less than optimal life? Why should you... something that was asked of me throughout my divorce when I was struggling emotionally with disconnecting was, have you done the rocking chair challenge? A friend of mine's partner said, imagine yourself at the end of your life in a rocking chair and looking back at your life. Would you be happy with the decisions that you made, the places that you stayed or that you left or whatever? And at that point I knew that there were some things in my life I would have regretted it. I would have looked back and gone, why didn't I deal with certain aspects of this sooner? Why didn't I this, that, or the other? But the details of it don't matter. What matters is that if you fast forward to end of your life, you're sitting in a rocking chair, you're going to look back and feel like you sacrificed your one red hot crack at this life because you were serving the purposes of other that, let's be real, leads to resentment and likely, if not tended to, the dissolution of a relationship that you lived out your whole existence to serve. Of course men are broken after that. Of course they're suffering, because we've set them up to fail in a sense when it comes to their own happiness, because we've conditioned them as children to think that happy wife, happy life is just, everybody says it. I hear it everywhere. Oh, happy wife, happy life. What do we think we're achieving? And so if we've set them up to accept that, and then we've set girls up to expect it, then we've created this vacuum that robs him of the true capacity he has for fulfillment and joy by being free to show up as my authentic self. And if I'm being authentic, maybe this is how I want my life to look. And I'm not talking about if you're going down the path of having children that you're then sitting here going, I wanted to be on a yacht in Croatia. I'm not talking about making plans that are truly averse to what you're doing with your life. I'm talking about living authentically, stepping into the power of the healthy masculine rather than subservient behavior. And sometimes we live in martyrdom to our children's existence without even realizing we're doing it. When I was married, I kept encouraging my husband to get his teeth done because he kept saying he didn't like his teeth. He wouldn't smile in photos and he hated his teeth. And I kept saying, you want to get braces, get braces. But his response was always, oh no, what if the kids need braces? Well, they didn't at that point. And my attitude would be, why would you put them as so above you? You're having a shared experience with them 100%. And our job is to do the best for them and make sure all of their needs are met. But this is not a need. This is a luxury. And it's not currently a need for them at the moment. But my thing is, why not lead by example? Why not step into the power of, being that healthy selfishness and go, yeah, I do want this. It's my money. Nobody's getting hurt. And I'm going to feel better in my own skin. Fuck yes, I'm all about that. And my argument was, show them what healthy selfishness looks like, that you work really hard. So of course I'm going to go and do this for myself. It wasn't something that was going to compromise us. That's different. I'm not encouraging people to rush out and do something that's expensive if it's going to compromise the well-being of your family. But if it doesn't compromise anyone, it's your money. You're not asking somebody outside of you to pay for it, and nobody gets hurt, and you're going to feel better in your own skin. I would say 100% do that, because when we feel better in our skin, we show up differently. We don't even realize we're doing it. We walk in with our shoulders back and our head high, and we're feeling ourselves. Do you know how much better that is as a gift for your woman, for instance, or your relationship, and even your children, to show them that when I work hard, I can invest in myself, and life is short, I'm going to do this, and then I'm showing up differently. I'm more confident. Of course, I'm being a better example of how to look after yourself, how to choose you. I promise you, the man who walks in with his shoulders back and his head high and he's smiling because he's not hiding his teeth is a very different experience for a woman than somebody who's just chasing her around, making sure she's happy, that she's got all the things she wants. I promise you, what she wants more than anything is you stepping into the power of your authentic self and having that healthy selfishness. Realizing your worth and your value as this powerful and loving presence in their lives, but also powerful and loving presence in your life. Who's going to take better care of you than you? There isn't actually anybody who can, because trust me, I've also been the wife who's tried to love the childhood wounds and trauma out of a man. I've tried to be enough, do enough, love enough, earn enough, all these things to try, and I would have done anything to help him. And it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if the person you're trying to help isn't going to help themselves, all of this is kind of just hitting armor. That's just pinging off the armor, and it's just nobody can look after us, look out for us, or nurture and show up for us better than or anywhere close to what we can. And we need to. And as I said, for way too long as a culture and society, we've fed men, but also boys, children, girls as well, this bullshit sandwich that says happy wife, happy life. And what a load of shit. I'm sorry. Why should any sense of happiness for you hinge on or be predicted by the perceived happiness of another? You're not here for martyrdom. And as men and women, we need to take accountability for ourselves and own our journey and our happiness. Because when we do, we arrive at a place of health, and we have so much more to offer our relationships and our children, if we have children. And as women, we don't actually need happy wife, happy life rubbish. We absolutely do need you empowered and in your truest form. And it's so rewarding helping men realize that if you want to support your partner, you do that best by finding your voice, not giving your power away, by realizing this journey is as much yours as it is hers. When we support our men to celebrate themselves as individuals, as partners, as fathers, as whatever parts of themselves make up the whole that is him, and give them time, space and support, and they give themselves the permission to truly define what they want their journey to look like. We not only foster better experiences with regards to for our children, we leave them free to enjoy the long-term effects of bonding properly with us, like creating connection, true intimacy, because let's be real, happy wife, happy life is an intimacy killer. It is not facilitating the very thing they're probably trying to facilitate. And not consistently, and not in its truest form, and not on the deep level that the kind of showing up the way I'm talking about facilitates, that's for sure. And especially if it's your newfound role as parent, like it frees you up to truly enjoy all of it. I don't know a lot of men who've had good or let alone brilliant examples of what it means to be a man, a partner, a husband, let alone a father. And a lot of the time I think that the damage done by that absence of good role models creates a fear in our men who feel ill-prepared for adulthood, let alone parenthood, and then are fumbling their way into and through these early experiences of their adult life filled with fear, overcome by this role ambiguity that does feed conflict, disappointment, resentment, even disengagement, because it's exhausting. You know, role ambiguity occurs when people are unclear or uncertain about the expectations within a certain role, or when their role is vague and ill-defined. And it's important for people to communicate clearly and honestly, particularly with your significant other, about your hopes and dreams and wishes and expectations and doubts and fears about what you want and think your life will or should look like. And understanding your partner's perspective on experiences will facilitate like the kind of respectful communication that is necessary and driven by empathy that's necessary when we're facing, let's be real, the inevitable challenges that will come in life. And I think one of the cruelest things we do to our men is let them come up in this role ambiguity where everything is so vague and ill-defined with what will be required of them. And then let's say they find themselves as husband or partner, but even then parenthood, navigating all of these parts of their life without any clearly defined roles and not really knowing what the expectations are, but being primed as children that you better keep her happy. But we won't even necessarily tell you how to do that, but you better not fuck it up. And it's kind of like when they find themselves in pregnancy and they're expecting a baby, and they almost get kind of pushed to the side sometimes by the whole process that's so involved with women. But then, and they're like, okay, great, somebody's here to support her, but he doesn't feel confident in raising his voice to say, hey, I've got questions, or I'm unsure, or I don't really know what. I think putting a man in a situation where the person you love more than anything is going to be in a degree of pain or discomfort that you can do nothing to shorten or make end, being pregnant, labour and birth, but you better support her. But we're not going to tell you what day or time it's going to happen, but it's coming and you better support her. But we're not going to tell you how, but don't fuck it up. And then he's just like, wait, what? I feel like this is what a good portion of being a man feels like. Like nobody's really giving me this clearly defined role of what's expected of me, but I feel like at the same time so much is expected of me. And then it's like being in a play, but not being given the script and then being punished because you got the lines wrong. Like, what the fuck? Who would sign up for that shit? And so I'm not surprised that our men are suffering. that our mental health crisis for men is such a significant one, because we could be doing so much better for our men as a culture, as a society, as a community, as you break it down into smaller and smaller parts, from right down to ourselves as individuals, whether it's the women going, yes, 100% I could be doing better. I could be doing better by owning my shit. I could be doing better by realizing that she's right. I don't want happy wife, happy life. I want to be my own peace. I want to do the work. I want to have, the work is lifelong in my view, but I want to be doing the work and in the trenches of that and have achieved my own peace, because I don't want to be your peace, because that means you're the storm. And I don't want you to be my peace, because then I'm your storm. I want to be individuals who've worked so hard on ourselves that we've achieved a degree of peace, that we can come together consciously and invested and take each other's hand in life, and then face the inevitable storms that will come, but not be the storm in each other's journey. And that starts with us as individuals, and 100% us as women, and then us as individuals that are men, really taking ownership of going, if I'm sitting in discontent, what part of my life is changeable that I can control that may be contributing to this? Because your experience of your life, how you experience what unfolds in and around your life, and the degree of joy, happiness, peace, contentment that you experience in relation to your lived experience comes down to your perception, your mindset, the accountability, the degree of accountability you're willing to take as far as ownership over the parts of your life that you can control. And the main part that you can control is your mindset and your perception of your lived experience. What if instead of emasculating and invalidating men's experiences, we embrace them, enabling them to come to the realization that this is as much their one red hot crack at life and wild, crazy adventure as it is hers, and that yes, you've chosen this person to join you on this adventure, but this is your life. This isn't somebody else's life. It isn't your family's life. It isn't your wife or your partner's life or your children's lives. They exist in your life and around you in ways that, yes, 100% require things from you, the commitment and, dedication, and for you to show up. But the biggest and best way that you can show up in a way that benefits anyone around you that you care about is as your most authentic self. And, if we really wrapped our arms around our men as a community and a culture and society, and helped them understand this and empowered them with the knowledge and skills to actually feel confident in stepping into it. It's not enough for me to talk about this on a podcast. I'm talking about accessing the resources and the help and the support networks that are growing by the day out there to support men's medicine, like all of these. There's no shortage of them, these men's groups that are, and men and women's groups that are aimed at facilitating exactly what I'm talking about. And as a result, we would see them soar to new heights of confidence and transition into any new role that they found themselves in, whether it's, as partner, husband, parent, in a calm and self-assured manner, rather than fear-filled and resentful or disengaged. And what if we did? We nurtured our men that they could become the very fathers they were born to be, that isn't determined by or negatively, grossly affected by the absence of a good role model or the poorly defined ones that came before them. You don't need to be the sum of your origins. You don't need to be defined by where you came from. The world is your oyster, and you can choose today to show up for yourself, and in order to do so, to actually really break it down, what you want your life to look and feel like, and then go about reverse engineering. How do I get that? How do I get there? It starts with our mindset. I know I talked in the last episode about manifesting, and when I was starting to do the manifesting and writing in my journal, my youngest came out and was like, "What are you writing? What are you always writing?" And I explained to her the 369 method, and she was surprisingly stoked about it and said, "Can I do it?" And I said, "Yeah, darling, what do you want?" And she goes, "Well, I want a fun life." And she said, "I want more money." I said, "A fun life doesn't happen by accident. So how about you write, money flows into my life in new ways every day, and I have a fun and rewarding life." And she did, and she started doing it. And often I'll wonder where she is, and she's sitting in her room. She's like, I'm doing my writing, and she does it diligently. And in the last, when did she start? Maybe like late January. But she not only found a way to invite into her life avenues of more money at 14 years old with no job, paid off a $350 debt she had to me for her Mac within like 6 weeks, and has saved a heap of money and is just amazing. But she's having all of these rewarding experiences in her life. And the thing is, it's by being intentional. Yes, the manifesting gets you writing it, but by writing it, it gets you thinking, I'm having a fun and rewarding life. I want to have a fun and rewarding life. How do I have a fun and rewarding life? And so she's obviously started to act with intention, put herself in situations that she might not have before. And, that's reaping the rewards when it comes to income, money, avenues of money flowing in, but also all of this really cool, fun stuff that just keeps coming up as opportunities. And you know what? The opportunities may have been there before and she wasn't looking for them, so she wasn't noticing them, or maybe they weren't there at all and she's actually going about creating them. But my point with this is, when we realize that we want things to be better or different or more in our life, then we have a responsibility to act with intention. It's not enough to write some nice things on a piece of paper, sit back with our hands behind our head and go, why isn't my life fun and rewarding? Why isn't it better? Why aren't I having a fulfilling, or whatever it is, right? The purpose of the manifestation writing is that it gets you thinking, and there's so much power in how we think about our life, how we view our life, because let's be real, the thoughts we feed and water facilitate the release of hormones that create the emotions and the feelings in our body. What dictates how we feel about our life can be reverse engineered back to, what am I thinking about and what am I feeding and watering on repeat? And if that is a negative dialogue for you, but you're sitting here going, yeah, my life is less than optimal, it's not ideal, or it's negative or depressing, then if we reverse engineered it, I think what you'll find is that we're in one way or another, we're feeding or watering thoughts and processes that seek validation of that. And then the subconscious goes on a fact-finding mission to support that belief that my life is depressing or it's shitty or whatever. And it's a bit of a spiral. It just keeps circling. So I would encourage you to consider that if you evaluate your lived experience and how you feel about it at present, and then look at how do I want that to look and feel, and then take it back to what am I willing to feed and water as far as my thoughts and put energy into, because that's what I do with my thoughts is going to determine how I feel in my body as a result of the hormones that I release. And then how I think and feel is going to determine how I behave, how I show up. If I think depressive thoughts on repeat and listen to sad songs, I release hormones that are going to make me feel sad. I'm going to walk in the room with my shoulders slumped and my head down. Of course, that's a very different experience of my life to feeding and watering thoughts of gratitude and inviting fun and rewarding things into my life. So then I'm now shoulders back because my life's fun and rewarding, and I'm looking for ways, my subconscious is looking for ways to validate that as a lived experience. And you can start to see how my perception of my lived experience has less to do with the environmental factors. My life didn't change. Our life didn't change. We didn't change where we lived. She didn't actually get a job. She actually manifested this opportunity where she got like a weird hobby. She got offered to collect golf balls at the little range nearby, and she can do it in like an hour and get $50. It's like, she's 14. She had no job. Like, all these opportunities are coming into her life that are actually fun. And she was saying, these are things I'm going to look back at when I'm an adult and go, remember when I walked around in the dark in the mud and kicked the toads away and got the golf balls? Like, she's having such a great time in her life. And this is on the back end of 2.5 years after her witnessing her sister's suicide and us finding her body. Like, she's been through the fucking ringer. And on paper, it doesn't make sense for this kid to be having the best the experiences and she's having so much joy in her life. But of course she is, because we've been very conscious about taking accountability for the fact that there's aspects of our life and there are things that happen in and around our life that we can't control or shorten or make end. But the things we can control is the perception we have of our life in spite of our challenges. And I feel like the girls are nailing it. Obviously, we have our challenges and grief never goes away, but I could not be prouder of those girls. And there isn't anyone alive that doesn't have the same capacity to navigate unimaginable challenges and traumas in life, but do so in a way that's kind to themselves, that helps you see that there is so much good in life. There is so much beauty and so much joy to be experienced, and that the presence of those don't negate the presence or validity of our grief or our sadness, but that they can reside simultaneously and take up space in the same parts of our heart and soul at the same time, and that we don't have to be one or the other. Of course, we are sad, and of course we're affected by grief and the absence of Riley, and obviously some of the particularly fun things we do there's a sadness associated with doing it without her, but the presence of the sadness doesn't take away our opportunity to live a fulfilling and rewarding life. And so we're doing that. Anyway, I would encourage everyone to consider what I'm saying as absolute potential for your lived experience, because no matter who you are or where you live, our potential is the same. Our life hasn't changed as far as the circumstances. We don't live in a better house or suburb or have a nicer car or more belongings, and therefore we're having a better experience of our life. We're all those factors are the same, but we're 100% having a better experience of our life because we choose to show up authentically and make the most out of this one red hot crack that we have at life, and lean into everything that it has to offer, because we have each other, we have good supports around us, and that is what you need. It breaks my heart that so many men are suffering, and suffering in silence, and silence isn't strength, it's survival. It's survival until it isn't, and there is never, ever anything in life that is actually so bad that it warrants taking your life. There are things that feel that bad, 100%. And I've been to the darkest of places with my hand on the doorknob of that door through which you exit this life, convinced that I don't have what it takes to stay here in this life, because staying here means too much pain. And I just want it to end. But I'm so grateful that I turned around and looked at everything that life had to offer me instead of going through that door. Because I have no idea what's on the other side of the door, but I do know that once you go through it, the pain that's left on this side is unimaginable. And I know that people don't take their life because they're trying to hurt other people for the better part. I appreciate now that they just want their own pain to end, but I would encourage you, if you are in that dark place, to reach out to someone. There are so many men's movements, men pages on Instagram and things set up that if you don't have a support network intimately in your life that you can connect to or reach out to, that there are these things set up more than we've ever had to support men and their mental health, because we need to do better. We should be doing better. Women don't typically marry a man for his submissive nature or want him to live a life of martyrdom, self-sacrifice, or feeling, as though he's settled in life. We typically, I believe that I speak for the majority of women when I say that what we do want is for him or you to find your voice and own your path and embrace your truth. Live as your most empowered and authentic self. And this is what I truly want for all men. As I said, it breaks my heart that so many men are suffering in silence. I would encourage you to reach out, because men matter, you matter. There are so many people out there that just want to wrap their arms around you and provide the support and connection that you need in order for you to realize that whilst this might be rock bottom for you, it doesn't need to be the end. it can be the beginning of a beautiful becoming. And although rock bottom doesn't feel like a beautiful new becoming, it 100% can be. I know, I've been there. And I'm grateful, like I said, that I didn't tap out and that I'm still here today and sharing this podcast with you. So I hope that I have done the intended message justice. I am Eslana Lower. You can follow me on Instagram at Resilience Mindset Coach. Thank you so much for listening to why I believe happy wife, happy life is bullshit and doesn't serve anybody. I hope you got something from this episode, and I look forward to sharing all the future episodes with you soon.